Greetings, friends. Shalom. Peace be upon you. Welcome back to the broadcast. I'm Shawn. We are starting our week, as we do most weeks, with some wisdom and some encouragement from the Psalms and from the Proverbs. We're ready for Psalm 25 today and Proverbs 26. Psalm 25 is a psalm of David. There's a couple of themes within the psalm. He's asking God to not remember his iniquity. Don't remember the sins of my youth. He's reminding God that he's dependent on God for everything, that God is the God of his salvation. He's asking to be delivered from his enemies. He's asking for God to preserve him, preserve his salvation, and to show him kindness and mercy. I think you're going to be blessed by it this morning. I'm not going to do a lot of commentary. I really just want to read Psalm 25 to you, and I just want you to open up your hearts and just hear what the Word of God has to say to you this morning. So with that, let's begin. Psalm 25, Proverbs 26, King James Bible. Psalm 25, a psalm of David. Unto thee, O Lord, do I lift up my soul. O my God, I trust in thee. Let me not be ashamed. Let not my enemies triumph over me. Yea, let none that wait on thee be ashamed. Let them be ashamed which transgresses without cause. Show me thy ways, O Lord. Teach me thy paths. Lead me in thy truth and teach me, for thou art the God of my salvation. On thee do I wait all the day. Remember, O Lord, thy tender mercies and thy loving kindness, for they have been ever of old. Remember not the sins of my youth, nor my transgressions. According to thy mercy, remember thou me for thy goodness' sake, O Lord. Good and upright is the Lord. Therefore will he teach sinners in the way. The meek he will guide in judgment, and the meek will he teach his way. All the paths of the Lord are mercy and truth unto such as keep his covenant and his testimonies. For thy name's sake, O Lord, pardon my iniquity, for it is great. What man is he that feareth the Lord? Him shall he teach in the way that he shall choose. His soul shall dwell at ease, and his seed shall inherit the earth. The secret of the Lord is with them that fear him, and he will show them his covenant. Mine eyes are ever toward the Lord, for he shall pluck my feet out of the net. Turn thee unto thee, and have mercy upon me, for I am desolate and afflicted. The troubles of my heart are enlarged. O bring thou me out of my distress. Look upon my affliction and my pain, and forgive all my sins. Consider my enemies, for they are many, and they hate me with cruel hatred. O keep my soul and deliver me. Let me not be ashamed, for I put my trust in thee. Let integrity and uprightness preserve me, for I wait on thee. Remember Yisrael, O God. Redeem Israel, O God, out of all his trouble. And that is Psalm 25. What I love about David is that he's not afraid to acknowledge his own depravity and his desperate need for God's mercy and forgiveness. And even though David made some tragically sinful mistakes, he really does have a heart after God. He's constantly seeking God, constantly asking for mercy, constantly praising God. He says, for your own name's sake, O Lord, pardon my iniquity, for it is great. For it is great. What man is he that feareth the Lord? Him shall he teach in the way that he shall choose. The fear of the Lord. Deliver me from this, or remember not my sins of my youth. All the paths of the Lord are mercy and truth unto such as keep his covenant and his testimonies. And then verse 14, the secret of the Lord is with them that fear him, and he will show them his covenant. John Wesley says his love and favor, which is called a secret, which you can refer to Job 29:4 and Proverbs 3:32, because it is known to none but him that enjoy it. He will make them clearly to understand it, both its duties and its blessing, neither of which ungodly men rightly understand. Only those who have the fear of the Lord are blessed to understand these secrets of God, his love, his favor, his law. You know, the scriptures say that the cross seems like foolishness to those who are perishing. To those whom God has opened up the eyes, it makes sense, it's perfect, it's beautiful, but to the rest of the world, to the ungodly, it just seems like foolishness. It just seems like nonsense. It just seems like gibberish, a foreign tongue. They cannot comprehend it because it requires the Spirit of God to truly understand. And you really have to come to terms with your own sin and your own depravity like David has to really appreciate the magnitude of the forgiveness of sin, to understand the magnitude of God's grace and mercy. Because if you think what you're doing is perfectly fine, and your behavior is perfectly fine, you don't understand how desperate your situation truly is. What is a man that feareth the Lord? Him shall he teach in the way that he shall choose. His soul shall dwell at ease, and his seed shall inherit the earth. All right, let's move on. And let's look for some wisdom today to start our week. We're ready for Proverbs chapter 26. Warnings and instructions continued. Proverbs chapter 26, verse 1. As snow in summer and as rain in harvest, so honor is not seemly for a fool. As the bird by wandering, as the swallow by flying, so the curse, causeless, shall not come. A whip for the horse, a bridle for the ass, and a rod for the fool's back. Answer not a fool according to his folly, lest thou also be like unto him. In other words, don't use the same type of response and demeanor as the fool that you're dealing with. Like it's kind of like warning you about bringing yourself down to the fool's level. If you allow his foolishness to somehow suck you into responding with that same behavior, You're no better than the fool himself. Verse 5, answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own conceit. He that sendeth a message by the hand of a fool cutteth off the feet and drinketh damage. The legs of the lame are not equal, so is a parable in the mouth of fools. Please note, I think you're getting the theme of today's proverb. It's a warning about your interaction with foolish people, stooping down to their level, depending on them, expecting them to understand common sense. Let's continue on. Is he that bindeth a stone in a sling, so is he that giveth honor to a fool. As a thorn goeth up into the hand of a drunkard, so is a parable in the mouth of fools. The great God that formed all things both rewardeth the fool and rewardeth the transgressor. As a dog returneth to his vomit, so a fool returneth to his folly. Seest thou a man wise in his own conceit? There is more hope of a fool than of him. The slothful man saith, there is a lion in the way. A lion is in the streets. In other words, the lazy person always has an excuse for why they need to be lazy. As the door turneth upon his hinges, so doth the slothful man upon his bed. The slothful hideth his hand in his bosom, it giveth him to bring it again to his mouth. The sluggard is wiser in his own conceit than 7 men that can render a reason. Over and over, right? So we kind of moved from fools to now laziness. But one thing that's mentioned about both of them is that the lazy person and the foolish person, they have a tendency to think that they're brilliant. Have you ever noticed this about some of the dumbest people on the earth? And when I know people get upset when I refer to other people as dumb. We'll just call them a fool then, like the Bible does. They think, I mean, they're the ones falling for everything, right? They're the ones gobbling up all the propaganda, gobbling up everything, screaming and yelling at us and the people with reason. They have no self-control. They literally think in their own minds that they are brilliant. They're so wise in their own conceit. Same thing with lazy people. They've always got an excuse of why it's okay to be lazy. It's somebody else's fault. Verse 16 again. The sluggard is wiser in his own conceit than 7 men that can render a reason. Verse 17. He that passeth by and meddleth with strife belongeth not to him. Is like one that taketh a dog by the ears. As a madman who casteth fire, brands, arrows, and death, so is the man that deceiveth his neighbor, and saith, Am not I in sport? Where no wood is, there is the fire goeth out. So where there is no talebearer, the strife ceases. This is so true. If you've ever worked in an environment and closely with people, if you have that one gossiper, that one person who's always got a story to tell, you're going to have strife. They're going to stir it up every chance they get. They literally feed and live off of it. Many of you have seen this in action. I certainly have. they just thrive on it. It's just like and they just love to watch the tension increase as they gossip and they they share other people's business, or they create conflict between other people. But you get rid of that person. You fire that person. And what happens is suddenly there's no strife anymore. There's no quarreling anymore. The strife ceases. Verse 21. As coals are to burning coals, and wood to fire, so is a contentious man to kindle strife. The words of a talebearer are as wounds, and they go down into the innermost parts of the belly. Burning lips and a wicked heart are like a potsherd covered with silver dross. He that hateth dissembleth with his lips, and layeth up deceit within him. When he speaketh fair, believe him not, for there are 7 abominations in his heart. In other words, the person who beware that person who can't keep their mouth shut. And if all of a sudden they're not stirring up strife and they're speaking sweet words, basically, don't buy it. There's 7 abominations in their heart. You know this already because you've watched them in action. Verse 26. Whose hatred is covered by deceit, his wickedness shall be showed before the whole congregation. Whoso diggeth a pit shall fall therein, and he that rolleth a stone, it will return upon him. A lying tongue hateth those that are afflicted by it, and a flattering mouth work ruin. And that is Proverbs 26. I tell you, Proverbs 26 could use a couple of rereads, right? Let's make sure that we're not falling into any of these categories. Let's look at these warnings, and then look in the mirror and examine ourselves. And make sure we're not acting like a fool. Make sure that we're not being sluggard and making excuses. Make sure that we're not running our mouths when we shouldn't be. Foolish behavior, according to the Proverbs. Now, a little bit of each of these themes is usually in most of the Proverbs, right? Like you'll usually see at least one verse addressing the sluggard, at least one verse addressing a fool, at least one verse addressing the talebearer or the gossiper. Proverbs 26 is just a mixture of multiples for those 3 issues that are prevalent through the whole book of Proverbs. Well, I pray that you've been blessed this morning, that you've received some wisdom and some encouragement to start the week. Sometimes it sounds harsh, and sometimes I can be a little harsh myself. Lord, help me to be a little more kinder with the delivery. But it's just frustrating because we're living in a world where all of these things have just been magnified by 100. And I'm just referring to what I've witnessed in the last decade, the last 10 years. All of that stuff is just magnified. And we have a world that's desperate for the truth of God. A world that desperately needs Jesus. A world that's never been more lost than it is right now. And so I feel like you kind of have to let go of the kid gloves a little bit and just say plainly what is true. And yeah, it might burn a little bit and it might pierce a little bit, but it also might open up some eyes. All right. That's all I have for you this morning. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you to those of you who support this podcast and make it possible. Peace and grace be with all of you. And until next time, God bless.